Of Flat Fee Realty.
Hello, Facebook friends.
Option. Pay less.
Welcome to Bird Talk.
FlatFeeRealty.com. I'm meteorologist Patrice Sutter on 710 KNUS.
David's undergone a facelift.
We'll follow Hurricane Fiona. Already has
He's undergone everything.
Everything.
We'll have the latest on what could be Canada's most catastrophic storm in its
grew some hair.
In the past few days, the Dow has been rocked.
Grew hair, yeah.
Jacked up interest rates. Don't miss our Money Monday feature at 4:45. Plus, we'll have Music Monday, our artist of the day, and a new film as well.
Stephen Tubbs, now at a new time, weekday afternoons from 4 to 7 on News Talk 710 KNUS. Portions of the following program have been pre-recorded. The following program is paid for by Wild Birds Unlimited.
KNUS and its staff are not responsible for any of the views, opinions, fabrications, postulations, or outright falsehoods you may hear in the upcoming program. Nor is the station management, its parent company, stockholders, or their families. Nor are the parents, siblings, spouses, children, relatives, friends, or enemies of David and Scott Menough. Well, maybe their enemies are responsible. Yeah, that's it. Anything they say that you don't like, you can blame on their enemies, whose names they will reveal on this show or one like this one sometime in the future. If there are any future shows, that is. They don't really have any enemies at this time, but they're planning to alienate enough people through the course of the next hour or so that they'll have enough enemies so that you'll have no trouble finding one to blame their indiscretions on. So sue them. Sheesh.
Here we go, your mic is hot.
Welcome to Bird Talk, your weekly fine-feathered feature that helps you get more birds more often for more fun. Now, here are your avian amigos, David and Scott Menough on News Talk 710 KNUS.
Well, good afternoon, and welcome to Bird Talk. Today, I am joined by Amy Darling, who is the certified bird feeding specialist at Wild Birds Unlimited in Denver. And she's going to join me to fill in for David. Dave's not here today, but we'll be able to handle everything right from here. So thank you for joining us. And, this is usually Dave's gig, but this day in history, September 24th, 2022, back in 366, Liberius ends his reign as the Catholic Pope. 1493, Christopher Columbus embarks on his second expedition to the New World, setting sail with a fleet of 17 ships. Guess he decided 3 wasn't enough. 1529, Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent and his Ottoman troops arrive in Vienna, beginning the siege of Vienna. And this kind of later led to more wars and all sorts of nasty things that went on. 1625, the Dutch attacked San Juan, Puerto Rico. And, of course, the Dutch, that's where New Amsterdam came from. They were all up and down the eastern coast and down to San Juan back in that time. 1657, the first autopsy and coroner's jury verdict is recorded in Maryland. 1683, King Louis XIV expels all Jews from French possessions in America.
Oh.
They're not too good in France right now, I understand. 1789, the U.S. Constitution establishes the Post Office Department following the new Constitution. And, of course, last Saturday was Constitution Day.
Oh, yes. So
we know that they had a lot of work to do because the Constitution had all these departments and things, not quite as many as they do now. Also in 1789, President George Washington, and this is in bird news, okay? But President George Washington nominated John Jay for the first Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court. Had to have that. Wonder if it's a blue jay or a Steller's jay.
It didn't get to be the national bird, though.
No, it didn't. But the Supreme Court, that's pretty good. 1852, Henri Giffard, a French engineer, makes a first steam engine-powered dirigible airship flight. 1853, the first round-the-world trip by yacht was done by Cornelius Vanderbilt. Now, Cornelius Vanderbilt made his fortunes in shipping, and he built the Biltmore Estate. He and his relatives built the Biltmore Estate in Asheville, North Carolina, and that is just an unbelievable property there. And I took a tour through there with my son, and it was just fascinating. I highly recommend it. 1890, the president of the Latter-day Saints, Wilford Woodruff, issues a manifesto advising members that the teaching and practice of polygamy should be abandoned. I don't know. I think I'm not sure if I could handle that much joy with more than one wife. 1920, Babe Ruth becomes the first to hit 50 home runs in a season. Also, I think in his lifetime he hit 700 home runs, and oh gosh, that's not that many people have done that.
Wow.
1929, Lieutenant James Doolittle guides a biplane over Mitchell Field in New York in the first all-instrument flight.
Ooh.
1948, after the war, Mildred Gillers, a.k.a. Axis Sally, a German-American broadcaster employed by Nazi Germany to proliferate propaganda during World War II, she pleads to not guilty to 8 charges of treason. I think she ended up in jail for 30 years, something like that.
So it didn't work.
There were more than one Axis Sally, too, but she was the big one. She was the one that caught, I guess. 1952, American fast food restaurant chain KFC opens its first franchise in Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake City?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And 70 years later, there's still a secret recipe.
Has it changed?
Who knows?
know.
It's a secret. That's right. And Colonel Sanders didn't tell it anymore. He wasn't before. 1955 in Denver news. 1955, President Eisenhower suffers a heart attack while on vacation in Denver. 1957, the single Jailhouse Rock is released by Elvis Presley, and it became the Billboard Song of the Year. 1960, the USS Enterprise, the first nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, is launched.
I thought that was a spaceship.
It became that. Well, it became
Okay.
that. Right, that was first. Then there was the Star Trek Enterprise. 1964. Speaking of TV, The Munsters premieres on TV on this day in 1964. And this was just 6 days after the Addams Family premiered.
Wow, they came up with that really fast.
Oh, yeah, I was fans of both, although I built both of the car models that were in the Munsters. So that was pretty cool. 1976, newspaper heiress Patricia Hearst was sentenced to 7 years for her part in a bank robbery. She was released after 22 months by President Jimmy Carter. In 1979, CompuServe begins offering dial-up online information service to consumers. And in 2001, crude oil and petroleum products futures fall to their lowest levels in nearly 2 years amid fears that a recession will reduce energy demand. Now we're concerned that too much energy demand will cause not enough fuel to be available. So, 21 years later, here we are. Did you ever have to deal with dial-up modems?
I did when I was very young.
Very young, yeah. I got so much done while I was waiting for everything to connect. Well, we have some specials going on in the stores today. We've got live birds of prey at all 3 stores. And from now until 4 p.m. today, you can come in and see these amazing birds at the Denver store, the Highlands Ranch store, and the Arvada store. So stop by, bring your cameras, bring the kids. The kids are just often there with wide-eyed learning about these birds of prey, owls, hawks, vultures, all sorts of stuff. We'll let you know what's going on. You're listening to the Bird Talk guy and gal, Scott and Amy today. 303-696-1971. Give us a call.
You're clear.
My favorite
The owl
bird
was
is
staring
a
at me.
black-capped chickadee.
Looked over and it was like,
Is that right?
barn owls are creepy when they stare at you.
I attract
They
them
have
to wild
dark
birds and
eyes.
lemons
A
seed
unique
into a
face.
cylinder.
Yeah,
So
those
for
dark
other
eyes.
feeders, our no-way seed blends work well too. But the chickadees just grab a seed and fly off to feed on it. You don't get to watch them as long.
That's right. With our seed and suet cylinders, they spend more time at the feeder, pecking away at the most nutritious foods in the known
Sorry, I'm
universe.
only half
that way
awake.
you get to see them longer. These cylinders
I'm
come
only
in a
half
variety
awake.
of flavors
Which
and are
half?
sure to bring
Top
in the
half?
most interesting.
That's all we need.
No, the
For
top
best
half is the
chickadee
part that's
attracting
asleep.
supplies,
Uh-oh.
visit
I could
us
walk.
today
I just
at the
can't think.
southeast corner of 88th and Wadsworth in Arvada, the southeast corner of Wadsworth and Yale in Denver, and the southwest corner of University and County
barn
Line
owls.
in Highlands Ranch.
I haven't seen one in years. I've only really gotten a look at one time.
One barn owl.
At Bar Lake flew over my head.
There's a whole family of them that nested down at Chatfield one spring and go down there in the evenings, put on the insect repellent, and watch these adolescents come out and stand on tree branches very awkwardly. It's fascinating.
Last 2 years they've been nesting at Red Rocks.
Is that right?
In the rocks.
Haven't seen them there.
Not sure exactly where. I've seen pictures though.
Right.
Try our Wild Birds
I
Unlimited
saw it. There was
no-waste
one
finch
place
plan
up there,
in
and of
one
course you could
lifetime guaranteed
spot it with all the
finch
whitewash.
feeders. This makes a Niger seed and fine sunflower.
Yeah, I think it was
chips
probably an old
goldfinches
falcon
find
nest site too.
Yeah.
But I know they had peregrines and prairies.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the prairies were on that
the
same
southeast
spot
corner
later.
of 88th and Wadsworth in Arvada,
Okay,
the
we're coming
southeast
back.
corner of Wadsworth and Yale in Denver, and
we're
the
not interviewing
southwest corner
anyone, right?
of County Line and University in Highlands Ranch.
Now, back to Bird Talk.
Alrighty, mics are hot.
US.
Well, welcome back to Bird Talk. If you'd like to join us, the number's 303-696-1971. We'd be happy to join us today if you would do that. 303-696-1971. And of course, Bird Talk is sponsored by the Wild Birds Unlimited stores in Arvada, Denver, and Highlands Ranch. We're broadcasting from Denver today, and today at the Denver store, the birds of prey that we have on display are the barn owl, a Harris's hawk, a hawk of the southwest desert, a Swainson's hawk, and these are fascinating birds to come down and see up close. Now, up at the Arvada store, they have a barn owl. They also have a turkey vulture, a red-tailed hawk, and a screech owl. And screech owls are really tiny. They're much smaller than the great horned owls. Down at the Highlands Ranch store, though, they have a great horned owl. They have a golden eagle and a gyr falcon. A gyr falcon's the largest falcon in North America, so that's worth seeing. They're all worth seeing, and you can spend the day between now and 4 o'clock this afternoon visiting the different stores to see these birds of prey presented to us by nature's educators. They travel the state of Colorado and surrounding states to give educational presentations on wildlife and wild places. They also offer virtual programming, flight shows, and continuing education. Their passionate team of wildlife professionals, interns, and volunteers work hard to deliver the best programs that they can and to offer the best care possible for the ambassadors, which are their wild critters that they have.
Feathered ambassadors.
Yeah. Now, you were telling me, Amy, that you had a new bird show up in your yard, new yard bird.
When it got cool the other day, that's when you see a lot of migrants dropping in, and I had a rock wren, which is different from your house wren. It's a little bigger, it's kind of dusty, sandy colored, and they're usually out in, well, rocks, rock outcroppings, cliffs, around town. Seeing one in the suburbs is very unusual.
Now, since Amy's other occupation is being a jazz trumpet player, I thought it might be a jazz wren instead of a rock wren. And if you get that wren hooking up with a rock wren, you'd have a fusion
Fusion wren, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so anyway, what else this summer have you been seeing in your yard?
Well, in addition to...
And you're in Denver.
I am. I'm south central Denver, kind of near DU, so I'm in town.
Right.
Same day as the rock wren. I love my LBJs, my little brown jobs.
Yep.
If you watch for sparrows, I had some clay-colored sparrows, some brewer's sparrows, and chipping sparrows, and they like to come together in migration.
And so, you might keep a pair of binoculars by your window that you watch your feeders from, because looking around on the ground at these little brown jobs, you can often find a new visitor or identify one that's been around a lot, but you just didn't know what it was. Sparrows can be tough to identify.
Hard. Especially in the fall when the chipping sparrows molt. They all look kind of alike.
Now, what else had you had that was interesting this summer?
Oh, this summer. Well, I've had my first full family of blue jays.
Oh, okay.
5 of them, presumably 2 of them are the parents. And they've been flying around the yard making all sorts of hawk noises, making me think I have all these hawks.
Right. I had one of those the other day, and I was sure. Initially, I was sure it was a hawk, and it didn't take more than a few seconds to realize this was a jay with his imitation. And I kind of wonder what they're doing, if they're trying to chase away other birds so they can take over the feeders, or if they just are letting others know that they really have a talent for imitating these other birds and sounds. What do you offer your jays?
Well, I have a peanut wreath, and I put peanuts in the shell in there, and I also have a large tray where I use our Tree Nutty Plus blend, which has lots of big nuts out of the shell and sunflower seeds and suet nuggets. Right now, they're really into the peanuts in the shell because they're taking them all and hiding them for winter. So they'll empty that wreath in one day.
Now, it is fascinating to watch that, and putting it in a tray or in a peanut wreath or other peanut feeder can be a great way to attract jays. And this is the best time to attract jays because more of them are around. Some of them have come down from farther north into Colorado, and offering things to these very intelligent birds can be entertaining, and through the winter it can add some color to your yard because they are definitely blue.
Definitely. Very beautiful.
If you'd like to join us, the number is 303-696-1971. Now, you have, Amy, you worked on a cruise ship for a bit in a variety of different ports.
Yes, all over the world.
So... Even you stopped in China, but did you bird there?
I did a little birding. That was our home port for about 5 months in Shanghai. And it's a little populated, but there was a park right next to the port, and I used to walk around in there. Some nice birds in there.
Yeah. During Mao's reign, he tried to organize the country to kill off all the house sparrows that were in the country. So I don't know if he was offering rewards, but he certainly issued a mandate that you had to kill the house sparrows. So
yeah, they sort of succeeded, and then they had a ridiculous population of insects. It just wiped out all their crops.
Yeah.
So it didn't work out too well.
No, bad idea again. Central planning never works. But other ports, you even did some birding on the ship because birds in migration would think, hey, here's a place I can rest while I'm crossing this large bit of water here.
I had over 30 species that I saw over the course of a couple of years on the ship. Lots of warblers, sparrows, tanagers, thrush, just on the ship. And peregrine falcons would regularly circle the ship while we were at sea.
That's amazing. Did you see them catch any birds?
No, but we had a pigeon one time that one was after.
Oh, okay. And how about, what do you think might be the most fascinating birding port?
Ooh. I did do a couple months in Australia and New Zealand. I think probably my favorite birding adventure was in Tasmania.
Oh.
I went up into the hills and looked for some birds. That was nice.
Oh, okay.
But Australia in general, just amazing birds, strange sounds.
Yeah.
very weird birds, parrots flying through the air. It's very neat.
Did you see any kiwis?
I did not.
You have to go out at night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had kiwis on an island near where I was, but you had to book a whole day trip to go to it. They put them on the island because they have problems with rats and dogs and snakes. So they have the island isolated, and they keep the kiwis there so that they don't get eaten.
I see. Okay. All right. So what they need is a different bird to take care of the rats and snakes.
Well, I got a swamp harrier. That might work.
That would work. If you'd like to join us, the number's 303-696-1971. We'd be happy to talk with you today. So what other things can, had the water sale, so it's important to have bird baths out, even though it's supposed to hit 80 degrees today. Pretty soon it'll start getting cold and colder, and then water will be freezing in the bird baths, heated bird bath heaters. So making sure that you have a water source this fall and through the winter is important. But what other things should people be focusing on right now for the fall season that they should do for the birds?
Well, like I was saying earlier with the jays, peanuts are really good right now for jays, magpies, other large birds. I actually had a towhee carrying one off the other day.
Oh, my.
Nuthatches will take them and hide them. So peanuts are great right now.
How about high-fat foods, suets, cylinders?
Yeah, suets are woodpecker cylinders, have suet nuggets in them. Sunflower seeds are very high fat.
Right.
Those are good anytime.
Yeah, throughout the year, those work very well. I was noticing in my own feeder that I had a suet cake in there that didn't get a lot of activity through the summer. It's still good because at Wild Birds Unlimited, we prepare suets so that they don't spoil. They hold up very well through the summer. But as the mornings have been getting a lot cooler, all of a sudden I've had more and more activity on that suet cake. I'm going to have to buy another couple of them today. But the high-fat foods are very beneficial year-round because they provide a lot of calories that help with birds that fly, and because they burn a lot of calories when they fly, but also that it's going to be a good insect substitute for our insect-eating birds and for those that stay with us through the winter. Chickadees, nuthatches, downy woodpeckers, flickers, all those guys, nuthatches, all those birds eat insects, and there aren't as many insects as it gets colder. They can still find them, but not as many, and so high-fat foods in the sunflower seeds, in the suets and cylinders can be very beneficial for these birds. If you'd like to join us, the number's 303-696-1971. We'd be happy to talk with you today about what's going on in the wild kingdom of your yard. We've had got a lot of people coming into the store today to see the birds of prey. Right now at the Denver store, we have a Harris's hawk and a barn owl. And during a break before, Amy and I were talking about the barn owls. And at one time down at Chatfield State Park, there was an old cottonwood tree with a hole in it, and barn owls made a nest in there and raised a family. And we'd go down there in the evenings, and we would put on our insect repellent because we're down there near the lake, and watch these barn owl youngsters come out of the nest, come out of the hole in the tree, and they'd sit on a branch, and they'd be, very awkward, like teenagers, because that's what they were essentially, and they'd be learning to fly, flapping their wings, doing that kind of thing, and it was really a joy to see these birds. And barn owls are their very own genus. Are they their own family too, or?
They're a subfamily.
Yeah.
And there's only, I think, 2 other species in the world that are in it. None of them are here in the U.S.
Yeah,
North
so
America.
it's just the barn owl, and it is one of the most ubiquitous owls. But it's a little hard to see in Colorado. They'll even nest in the holes in the riverbank along the Colorado River, although I've never seen that. I've heard about that. So
And in barns.
And
That's
in
the name. Not so much here, though.
Yeah, I think my niece and her husband have one at their place. They've got a lot of outbuildings, and I think they've got one that's nesting out there. I'll have to double check.
Great rodent control.
Oh my gosh, that's it. Exactly. They can even with their hearing, they can even find rodents in pitch black. So very good hunters. If you'd like to join us, the number's 303-696-1971. You're listening to Scott and Amy today with Bird Talk on 710 KNUS 990 KRKS. We'd like to have you join us, so give us a call, 303-696-1971.
You're clear.
At Wild Birds Unlimited, we specialize in
Staring at
providing
me.
high-quality bird foods that are seasonally.
Stay right back.
Seasonally savvy means that you're tuned in.
Does he blink at all?
That's the thing to do, see who wins.
To suit the seasonal behavior of the birds.
That's why we developed our Wild Birds Unlimited Nesting Super Blend. It's a super boost of protein and calcium for birds' nesting and molting needs. Birds are changing to their breeding plumage, and new feathers are made up of 90% protein, so they need more protein right now.
Egg laying requires more calcium for strong shells and bone development. Our protein and calcium-packed Wild Birds Unlimited Nesting Blend gives birds just what they need when they need it most. You won't find better bird foods anywhere.
Pick up some Nesting Super Blend today at the southwest corner of University and County Line and Highlands Ranch, the southeast corner of 88th and
We have a
Wadsworth in
Facebook
Nevada, and
question from Nikki. We'll answer that when we come back.
in Denver.
Nice.
I got a flapping picture.
Of the barn owl?
Yeah. It's not bad from here.
Yeah,
Just testing out my new zoom.
your new Zoom.
It has a macro lens, so I can take pictures of insects.
Yeah,
It's going to be cool. I used to have to kind of back out for insects.
right. I've got a new phone too.
It's definitely the best phone I've ever had.
This one's the best one I've ever had too.
It's the first time I've gotten a Samsung.
Oh yeah?
I've always done LG. Because they're
Heard
not
good
bad.
things about those Samsungs.
Yeah, they and the iPhone seem to tie for the best cameras.
I got the new iPhone, or not the iPhone 14, but the iPhone 13, and I don't really like it, to be honest.
No. This is a slightly older Galaxy. It's
American Family Insurance
S21. I think they're up to
reports that birds
S23
keep
now.
farmers in business.
They just keep going, don't they?
Birds.
I just got the iPhone 14 Pro, and it's got a 48 megapixel camera, so you can make posters if you
The
want.
Tom Walker Agency
Yeah, that one
at
came up
American
number
Family
one
Insurance
for the
is a
best
sponsor
camera.
of our program because
Make
Mine?
some bird
Yeah,
posters.
and Samsung was S23 was the second.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't able to offer insurance protection.
It's
for birds.
amazing.
But it's here to help you protect
Why
you
carry a
and
camera
your
anymore?
property from the unexpected
Other than
Other
your
than
phone.
telephoto.
Well, yeah.
But I put my camera up to my binoculars.
Umbrella.
Yeah.
I just got to figure out
life,
which
and
camera
farm
it
and
is now,
ranch
'cause there's
coverage.
three
For
of
Oh,
all
that's
your
right.
insurance needs.
Well,
I don't know which one.
at least you aren't burning film when you do it. Just digital.
That's 303
Just pixels.
504
Just burning pixels.
9605.
American Family Mutual Insurance
Coming back 10 seconds.
Companies, American Family Life Insurance, 2000 American Parkway, Madison, Wisconsin.
American Family Insurance.
KNUS Denver.
Mike is hot.
Join the Bird Talk flock. David and Scott Menough are here to answer your bird feeding and nature questions. Now, here are David and Scott on News Talk 710 KNUS.
Well, welcome back. Dave's not here, but Amy's here helping me out with
Hello.
Bird Talk today. Hello. Thank you. And if you want to stop by any of the 3 Wild Birds Unlimited stores today, Denver, Arvada, or Highlands Ranch, you can stop in all 3, and you can see all these birds of prey. Right now at the Denver store, we have a barn owl on display and a Harris's hawk. They also had a Swainson's hawk out earlier, and typically they'll just bring a couple of the raptors out, a couple of the birds of prey out, because it'll let one rest while the other two do their work, educating people. And these are unreleasable birds. So those are the birds at the Denver store. Up at the Arvada store, there's a barn owl, turkey vulture, red-tailed hawk, and a screech owl. And I don't know which ones are out right now. Can you believe that? But they have those birds up there. At the Highlands Ranch store, there's the golden eagle, a great horned owl, and a gyrfalcon. So really quite a variety of different birds of prey that you can stop by and see at the Wild Birds Unlimited stores. If you'd like to join us, the number is 303-696-1971. And we have a couple of Facebook questions from our friend Nikki, and she says, do the Blue Jays remember where they stash the peanuts? And she says, I ask because I've seen videos of people tearing down houses, cleaning satellite dishes, and finding hundreds of pounds of nuts. I kind of wonder if those are jays or squirrels. But the way that jays find their food is by landmarks. So if there's a tree here and a rock here, and they bury or place a peanut in that spot, they'll use the landmarks to find. And they probably, about 50% they find, 50% they don't find.
More than squirrels.
Yeah. But if you moved that rock, they wouldn't be able to find a peanut. Now, squirrels find their foods by sense of smell. So they'll bury it somewhere, and then they'll go and try to sniff it out. But as you said, they don't find as many as they stash compared to jays. So that's interesting. Now, the other thing that they do, jays would come in to find peanuts in the shell, and if you put them in a tray, they'll pick one up, put it down, pick one up. They're actually weighing the peanuts. They're taking the heaviest peanut that they find first, because that gives them the biggest energy payoff for the energy that they expend flying into the feeder. So very smart birds in that way. So they'll pick one up, and then the first one they'll stuff in their throat, and then they'll pick up another and fly off with it. Usually the second one is harder to weigh because they already have something in their mouth. And you know why they put those in their mouth, don't you? They don't have pockets.
Oh, yes.
So, geez, they ought to get a little backpacks or something. But anyway, so they can take quite a few peanuts and be able to stash them that way. Actually, the white pine forests are dependent upon jays for the growth of the forest. So just really interesting situation with that. But very smart birds, a lot of fun to have around. And I don't know, tearing down and clear.
That sounds like
squirrels
dishes. To me.
It really does. Yeah.
Jays don't usually cache that many in one place.
Right.
But they do better than lab students. They've run tests, and they remember more locations than human lab students.
Maybe if they starved the lab students first, they'd be able to find them.
Make it more important.
Yeah, make them live outside, all the time, no shelter, and then starve them. See if they can find it.
Now you have to last the winter.
I guess, yeah. Anyway, if you'd like to join us, 303-696-1971. You can give us a hand today by calling in and joining us to, maybe you're asking questions about how you can attract different birds, like those jays. I don't know, how would you attract a rock wren? I mean,
luck?
Yeah.
Have bad weather, I guess.
Yeah, I kind of wonder if they'd come in for mealworms, for example.
I don't know. They're more ground feeders.
Right.
They're not usually used to trees. They might come in for mealworms if you threw them on the ground, maybe.
And, of course, so you can use mealworms through the summer to attract the house wren, the cousin there. But I don't know about the fusion wren. That might be the entirely different.
Or the recycle bin wren, which is the one that I had.
That's where you showed me a couple of pictures. That's pretty cool. So if you'd like to join us, 303-696-1971 is the number. Now, among the birds that we have here, all are raptors that I mentioned except for that turkey vulture. Because turkey vultures don't kill their prey. They find their prey already killed. Mm-hmm. And the others will kill their prey usually with their talons and then be able to dine that way.
Yes, turkey vultures don't have talons strong enough to carry prey. They use their beak entirely for dealing with carrion.
Carrion. If you'd like to join us, 303-696-1971. We're going to go out to the phones and talk to Jeff in Arvada. Hello, Jeff.
Good afternoon. I need to, I'm hoping to find out what kind of new little bird I saw last night. It was late in the afternoon, and I was sitting in my backyard, and this little guy popped up. It's very small. I would say smaller than a finch, and no barring or stripes or anything on the throat or chest. It was white throat, chest, and stomach on the underneath part, but it also had the appearance. The back appeared to be a light brown, but I don't know if it was because of the no barring or stripes that it had a real sleek appearance, but it was just a tiny little thing, and I'm not positive, but I think there was a circle around the eyes.
Okay. And what was it doing in your yard?
Mostly just hopping around on the ground, and it was by itself because earlier, a couple months ago, I called you, and we had a bunch of bush tits come in, and I thought that's what they were, and they were, but there was like 10 or 15 of them. This guy was by himself.
All by himself.
Sounds like one of the migratory sparrows that we have this time of year. Native sparrows, not to be confused with the bigger house sparrows that you get all the time. But if it had a little eye ring, it could be a brewer's sparrow or possibly a clay-colored sparrow. I wouldn't call them white on the underside, but light-colored.
Yeah. It wasn't white, but it was cream color, maybe.
Eye ring is usually a good sign for a brewer's sparrow, but they are very hard to tell apart. They do like to hang out on the ground. They're smaller than house finches. Well, and not much markings.
Especially in Colorado with all the craft beers. Very likely a brewer's sparrow.
Yep, flew in from...
Okay, I'll pull out the bird books and look at, you said brewers?
Yes.
And what was the other possibility?
Clay-colored sparrow, they have more markings on the face. They're going to be right next to each other in the field guides.
Okay.
Because they're very closely related, and sometimes they come in a group together, so...
Okay. All right, I'll look those up. Thank you for your help.
You bet. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for calling. If you'd like to join us, 303-696-1971. We can do stuff like that, identify little birds that come into your yard. And, of course, this time of year, you can get migrants like that coming through, whether it's a brewer's sparrow or a rock wren or who knows what might be showing up. I have a chipping sparrow that nests near us every year and shows up in the backyard and feeds on the ground. So it's always fun to be able to watch the new birds that come in. 303-696-1971 is the number. We want to remind you to stop by the store, bring your cameras, and you can be able to see quite a variety of birds of prey up close and personal, and the information that they're passing on, that the nature's educators are passing on to the people that are coming in, is very valuable. So check it out.
Great for kids, grandkids, and adults.
That covers everybody. Oh yeah, I know. It's always It's always, we have to remind ourselves we have to work to help customers. 303-696-1971. We'll be back after the break.
You're clear.
So is a Hummer the most interesting squirrel?
Sliced bread often receives accolades as being the
That's the
last
commercial.
greatest thing. Not the internet,
I thought maybe
not the
a
automobile.
Hummer was the
Sliced
most
bread
interesting
beats
squirrel.
them all.
Yeah, I think we've changed them up, though. David did a most interesting squirrel ad that's like the most interesting man.
Oh, like the Dos Equis?
Yeah.
The Wild Birds Unlimited Daily Savings Club.
So our book of the month is Bird Brains.
There are
Because
no
of the
meetings to attend.
book of the month,
When you join,
because
you
of
get
Jay's.
15% off the best prices on the world's best bird food all year long.
You don't like
There's
it?
You get 5% off bird food sale prices.
And they misidentify
and
some of the
every purchase
pictures.
earns Bird
There's
Box
one that says
rewards
Pinion
points that you can
Jays,
use
Yeah.
to
and it's a
purchase
scrub
anything in the
jay.
store.
Oh.
We'll give you a free gift just for joining us.
Oh.
So take
It
a
was very
backseat
poorly
sliced
edited,
bread.
but it's full
There's
of
a
great
new best thing
information.
in town, and it's only at Wild Birds Unlimited.
What was that in?
Highlands Ranch at the
Bird
southwest
Brains?
corner of University and
Definitely
County
Gifts
Line
of the
Road.
Crow is the
Arvada
better
at the
book,
southeast
but I can't
corner
get
of
it
88th and
anymore, so-
Wadsworth, and
Oh,
Denver
really?
at the southeast
I just
corner of
recommended
Wadsworth
it
and
to
Yale.
somebody
Why
before
am
the
I
show.
None of our
so
book
hungry?
carriers have it.
You know, a lot of people don't know this about me, but I once killed a guy in a bar fight.
They'd
David,
republish.
that's not true.
I know it's not.
New
That's why
edition.
a lot of people don't know that about me. One thing they do
Got John from Littleton
Next month we're
asking
gonna
about
do-
Blue Jays.
The best way to
Sorry.
is with timing,
Yeah,
freshness,
John.
and visibility.
Hey, you got that text?
Yeah.
All right, groovy.
Nectar
Go on, sorry.
and keep the feed
No problem.
visible.
That's right. Increase the odds of having these little jewels of the sky visiting by using our lifetime
Yeah, we gotta-
guaranteed no-trip Wild Birds Unlimited hummingbird feeders and nectar mix. Add some hummer-attracted plants and create a hummingbird oasis.
The hummingbirds
Still
are
a couple
coming,
hummingbirds
so
being
get prepared
seen.
today at the southeast corner of Wadsworth and Yale and Denver. The
When was it?
southwest corner.
Well,
of
we had a guy who
University
had
and
one
County Line and
yesterday,
Highlands Ranch in the
but they mostly
southeast
took
corner
off
of
when it got
88th
cool.
and Wadsworth,
Oh, yeah.
Alabama.
Wild Birds Unlimited. We bring people and nature to
You sing that, Scott?
Everybody asks. You'd be amazed.
News Talk 710. KN.
All right, we're coming back in. Mike is hot.
Welcome back to Bird Talk. Bird Talk is presented by the Wild Birds Unlimited stores in Denver, Arvada, and Highlands Ranch. So when you stop by those stores, thank them for sponsoring Bird Talk. If you'd like to learn more about the stores and about Bird Talk, catch up with past podcasts, episodes, link through to Facebook Live. You can go to birdtalkguys.com and be able to get all that information. In addition, we've got some, what do you call it? We have some, what was I going to say, Amy? That's why you're here.
I don't know. I'm not a mind reader.
You're supposed to be. But we have some best of Bird Talk episodes on there, including Sir David Attenborough. And one of the history things that fell off my list was back in I can't remember the year, but Sir David Attenborough actually surpassed Jennifer Aniston on Instagram, hitting 1 million Instagram followers quicker than the record holder, Jennifer Aniston.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I'll bet that won't even show up in Trivial Pursuit. 303-696-1971. We're going to talk to John in Littleton today. Hello, John.
Hello, thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
I got a bunch of Blue Jays. They love shell peanuts. You can't find them. Do you stock those?
In the show or out of the show?
The shell for the Blue Jays.
Yeah, we do. We carry them in 25, 10, and 5-pound bags.
And is that year-round?
Yes.
Yeah, year-round. And the special thing about these peanuts is they are unsalted and raw. So you don't want to feed a lot of salt to birds because they have to drink more water, and a bird full of water isn't going to fly as well.
Okay, well, listen, I'm going to go there. I can't make it today or tomorrow, but what are your store hours?
We're open 10 to 6 weekdays and Saturdays, and then Sundays are 11 to 5.
Well, 10 to 6, huh?
Mm-hmm. That's at the Denver
Thank you,
store.
sir. I will see you Monday to buy a bunch of peanuts.
We'll see
That
ya.
sounds good, John. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your help.
You're welcome, and keep those Blue Jays happy for as long as they're hanging out. So that's the other thing. You know, if you do run out of peanuts for a day or two, they've hid some of those elsewhere, and they'll go find those and eat those. Sometimes I've watched them take a few and hide them, and then they come back and they'll take one, they'll put it right on top of a fence post, and they'll peck it open there and just thoroughly destroy the shell and eat those kernels that are inside, those peanut kernels. I've also watched flickers go after peanuts in the shell, and what they would do is they would wedge it between a couple of stones or in a crack in the pavement, and then they drill a little hole in the side of the peanut and they'd nibble the nut meat out of that. So I could look at an empty shell and tell which bird went after it. So that's fun. 303-696-1971 is the number. We'd be happy to talk with you today. We're listening to Bird Talk with Scott and Amy on 710 KNUS, 990 KRKS, and also Facebook Live podcasts after the show, so you can check all those out. If you'd like to join us, as I said, 303-696-1971. We're going to go back to the phones, talk with Roger in Arvada. Hello, Roger. Hey, Roger.
Hello, I just had a...
There's a delay on his phone, just so you know.
question. Hello.
Hello. How can we help you?
Hello, I have a bird identification question.
All right. Go ahead. You're on the air.
I have a bird. It's a little. Okay, thank you. It's a little smaller than a robin. It's almost entirely gray, except for the tail feathers are a dark gray or black, and it may have a slight streak through its eye. And I'm wondering, the closest thing I can find looks like it might be a Townsend solitaire. Is that a possibility?
That is, as you started to describe it, that's the first one that popped into my mind. Mm-hmm. A Townsend solitaire is it's one that we often get asked about because it is so nondescript. There aren't wing bars, or there aren't definite markings or contrast in different colors or shadings as much. But there is that thing around the eye, mm-hmm. and there is the coloration you're describing.
About the right size. The other possibility would be maybe a Say's Phoebe, but they'll have a orange wash to the belly.
Right, it'd be a lighter colored on the stomach. So
mm-hmm.
and this is a bird that is related to robins.
Mm-hmm. In the thrush family.
Right. So you had a good idea there.
Is it a ground feeder? Because every time I see it, every time I see the bird, it flies in, sits on a trellis, it looks around, then it drops to the ground. So I'm assuming it's a ground feeder?
Yeah, they eat insects mostly and also berries, so it's probably picking up some insects off the ground.
A lot of berries are falling off of bushes right now, too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Roger. And if you'd like to join us, 303-696-1971. We're going to go back to the phones, talk with Nancy in Centennial. Hello, Nancy.
Hiya. You know what? I should know this, but could you tell me how we can keep the wasps away from the hummingbirds on our feeder?
You know, signage can help. No wasps allowed, maybe even with a picture of a wasp and a circle and a slash.
Mm-hmm.
But for
that's a good idea.
But for the really dumb ones, you know, what kind of feeder are you having problems with?
It's just a glass feeder that goes down with a silver metal, and then the little stems so to speak, with a little flower on the end.
Well, those are the feeders we tend to have the most problems with bees and wasps and even ants underneath the feeder because they just drip like crazy when sunlight hits them or gravity. That's why we helped develop and design a feeder that is more saucer-styled so that all the fluid is below the feeding port. And hummingbirds have to drink down into the saucer shape. It also allows you to see them very well, as your feeder would, but it can accommodate up to 6 birds depending on the size of the feeder. Now, I don't think there's a lot of help we could give you with that type of feeder, but other feeders that have bottles above feeding ports that have a dish that the bottle refills. Sometimes we can use a light coating of vegetable oil or Vaseline around the port, and that tacky feeling on the wasp's feet, they don't like that, so often they'll stay away from the feeder. So next spring, you might be up for buying a new feeder that's going to attract fewer wasps and bees.
And those high-perch feeders also have the capability of adding on bee guards in case there's still being a problem and trying to get in there.
Bee guards.
They're just little tiny plastic extensions that go on the inside and just make the hole a little longer. They are designed specifically for the saucer-type feeders. But
now, could you just put something underneath the feeder area that would be like a top of a plastic yogurt container? Just keep that from dripping?
No, because they'll still come right up and perch on that stem and drink right there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll give it a try, and if I get there this year, could I still attract hummingbirds if I come over and get a different feeder?
Yeah, let's see. What are we hearing about hummingbird?
They mostly took off with the cold that we had recently. We are still hearing a couple of sightings, but it is petering out for the year. They're usually mostly gone by the end of the month.
So leave your feeder up for about 2 weeks after you see the last hummingbird. And with your feeder, since you have little petals around the end, try that coating of Vaseline or vegetable oil right around the flower petals there. Maybe that'll stop those wasps from landing on there.
Oh, good. How about when the hummingbirds come back?
That's the time, of course, we like to say at Wild Birds Unlimited, that's the time to buy a new feeder.
Oh, it makes sense to me.
Okay.
Listen, thank you so much for your help. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, Nancy. And quickly, we're going to go out to the phones, talk with Mark and Golden. Hello, Mark. We've got about a minute and a half left.
Hi. Thanks for having me. I was just curious about whether we might expect the Townsend's solitaire that overwintered in a cluster of junipers near our house here on Lookout Mountain last winter, if I might expect to see it again over the season this year.
Oh yeah, Lookout Mountain is a great area. They actually are up there pretty much year round. So you could definitely see that. If you have berries on the juniper, they would just love that.
Yeah.
So that you have a very good chance.
Well, that's good. We really enjoyed it. Every day about sunrise, it would emerge from the tree and take its perch at the top and stay there most of the day.
Very nice. They're very nice birds.
Good. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for joining us today. And we want to thank all our listeners for joining us. You've been listening to Bird Talk with Scott and Amy on 710 KNUS, 990 KRKS. And stop by the stores until 4 o'clock today to see the variety of birds of prey that are on display from Nature's Educators. So stop by the Arvada store, the Denver store, or the Highlands Ranch store. With Wild Birds Unlimited, you can see these birds. Until next week, we'll be back from noon to 1 on 710 and 990. Until then, we'd like to say, happy birding.
You're clear.
Thanks, Blake.
All right. Hell of a show, guys.
Thank you. Next week.
Next week. See you guys. See you next week.
You
Thanks,
bet.
Amy.
Thank you.
Okay, and thank you, Facebook friends. We'll see you next week.
We'll be featuring candidates who share their